Yeah, thank you to each of the witnesses for appearing here today. I'll dive right into it. I guess the first thing is, and I've brought it up to this committee before, I'm very, I guess, disappointed and or concerned that this conversation isn't surrounded more around Windsor to Toronto, at least part of the study, because Windsor, of course, next to Detroit, the busiest international border in North America. So that's nothing to do with the witnesses. I'm just making a statement because that's where our commodities come through. Mr. Fremont, I listened keenly when you spoke about a shift from cars and planes to trains. So this question is to you, sir. Um, Ironically, I just looked up for me to take a train to Ottawa from Windsor to Ottawa, and it will take me, if I were to do that, 13 hours. And if I drove from Windsor to Ottawa, it will take me just under 8 hours if I only stop one time for fuel. And if I fly, it'll take me 5 hours. My question for you, sir, is with regard to the investment. Is there any way to close that gap, or am I missing something, or how do I best represent my constituents in Essex, in Windsor area, to ensure that the financial implications into it are going to actually have a result at the end?
I think I hear from your question and from the previous question, there's an interest in thinking about Canadian rail in general, not just the Toronto to Quebec City corridor. And I can understand that. Obviously, nobody wants to feel like the national government is investing just in part of the country and not many other populous locations. And certainly the rail service from Windsor to Toronto currently and planned in the future is completely inaccessible to most people. It's way too slow. And the result is that the vast majority of people making journeys along that corridor are currently driving to do so. That, as I'm sure you know, the air service in the sections, west of Toronto are quite poor. And so folks are generally driving to make those types of journeys. It is also true that Toronto is a large enough metropolitan area that even though London, Windsor, etc., are not enormous metropolitan areas, the attractivity of Toronto as a huge population center could make investing in substantially improved rail service from Toronto to Windsor actually worth it. This is especially true if there was cooperation with the United States to connect into Detroit, but perhaps that's for another conversation. Even so, I think it's worth pointing out that, yes, that corridor should be considered as well.